In this episode of Monster Preservation and Research Society, we're going to take a look at a cryptid from Ohio and a monster from a popular 80s cartoon. So, stick around. Welcome to the very first episode of Monster Preservation and Research Society. This is the show where I go over monsters from real-life folklore and cryptozoology to great monsters that are in pop culture, such as cartoons and movies and comic books. We're going to kick things off with a creature that I hold close to my heart. When I was growing up, I loved reading monster books. Little did I know that there was such a thing as cryptozoology. Cryptozoology was something that I learned about much later, probably when I was in high school, and this creature was one of the first ones that I read about. The story of the Loveland Frog, or Frogman, is a very twisty story that covers many decades. The first sighting dates all the way back to May of 1955, when a businessman witnessed 4 or 5 frog-like creatures under a bridge near Loveland, Ohio. In the businessman's story, he was driving at around 3:30 in the morning. He happened upon the bridge, and he said that humanoid creatures were squatting under it. They had wrinkles instead of hair, lopsided chests, and wide mouths without lips. When the creatures noticed that they were being watched, one of them stood up and held up a metal rod that emitted sparks. The businessman sped away. After the fact, the businessman added that the area smelled of alfalfa and almonds. Later that year in August, Miss Darwin Johnson had a terrifying encounter with the frogman. While swimming in the Ohio River in Evansville, Indiana, something grabbed Miss Johnson and tried to drag her underwater. The creature had claw-like hands and grabbed Miss Johnson's knees, legs, and feet. She fought off the unseen attacker after being dragged under twice. When she fled the water and made it to land, Miss Johnson discovered that she had an eerie green palm print on her knee and leg. Things went back to normal in Loveland after the first sightings in 1955, but 17 years later, in 1972, the local police were in for a shock of their lives. On March 3rd of 1972, at approximately 1 a.m., a police officer was driving down the road when he spotted a mass on the side of the road. Thinking it was a dog, he slowed down. When his headlights fell upon the creature, it stood up and was a 4-foot-tall humanoid of leathery skin and frog-like features. The creature ran quickly to cross the road and leapt over a guardrail, scrambled down an embankment and into the Little Miami River. An officer that investigated the scene later that morning stated that he found claw marks on the guardrail and down the embankment. 2 weeks later, Officer Mark Matthews had an encounter with the creature. It was huddled in the middle of the road when the police officer came upon it. Thinking the creature was nothing more than a carcass, Matthews planned on removing the dead animal for other motorists' safety. When he reached out to touch the object, the creature jumped up into a crouching position. Frightened, Matthews pulled his sidearm and fired at the creature. Missing his target, Officer Matthews stood helplessly as the creature ran off and stepped over the guardrail and disappeared into the brush. Later that month, an anonymous farmer reported sighting 4 bizarre creatures while inspecting his fields, which were located adjacent to the Little Miami River. The farmer claimed that the eyes of the frogmen were large and circular, their skin was a pale greenish gray, and that their mouths were wide and filled with sharp teeth. When spotted, the creatures ran and disappeared into the Little Miami River. Over the years, there have been numerous reports of the Loveland frogs in and around the area of Loveland, Ohio, and around the Little Miami and Ohio rivers. The most recent sighting that garnered some attention happened on a Wednesday in August of 2016. On that night, Sam Jacobs and his girlfriend were playing Pokemon Go between Loveland, Madeira Road, and Lake Isabella. Then a night of fun turned into a chilling tale of horror when they encountered the purported Frogman. In an email written to local news stations, Jacobs wrote, "We saw a huge frog near the water. Not in the game, this was an actual giant frog." Jacobs then stopped playing Pokemon Go so he could document what he was seeing, snapping some photos and shooting a short video. He goes on to say, "Then the thing stood up and walked on its hind legs. I realize this sounds crazy, but I swear on my grandmother's grave, this is the truth. The frog stood about 4 feet tall." When they returned to Jacob's girlfriend's home, her parents told them about the legend of the Frogman. So was it the legendary Frogman? Was it just a big frog? Jacobs wasn't sure. "Either way, I've never seen anything like it," he concluded. Over the years, there have been many sightings. Some of them could be real, some of them could be outright hoaxes. The urban myth of the Frogman still live on in many younger generations. Going back to the case in 1972, Officer Mark Matthews has retracted his original statements regarding the Loveland Frog, but most speculate that this is either due to the ridicule he suffered or a larger cover-up. As far as cover-ups go, a lot of cryptozoologists believe that the Loveland Frog could be an alien species or a visitor from another dimension. A lot of them use the wand-like device that it was seen with during the first sighting as proof of this. Either way, it's really fun to think that we live in a world that could be home to large humanoid frogs, or ones that are from a world that we don't know of. The next monster that we're going to talk about is from a popular 80s cartoon, and that is the Astral Moat Monster from Thundercats. The Astral Moat Monster's first and last appearance were in the episode Astral Prison. In the episode, the Astral Moat Monster guards and protects the entryway into the Astral Prison. In the episode, Lion-O is alarmed by the Sword of Omens, and using sight beyond sight, he sees that Jaga has been imprisoned in the astral world by Nemix, a three-eyed, four-armed creature who plans on keeping Jaga there for all eternity. After some tomfoolery with Momra posing as the Neither Witch, Lion-O finally materializes in the astral world, near the fortress where Jaga is being held prisoner. Using the line from his claw shield, Lion-O begins ascending the steep walls of the tower. Suddenly, he is attacked by the Astral Moat Monster, which jumps up at him from the moat surrounding the tower. While its small wings do not give it the ability to fly, they nevertheless help it to make big leaps. Its strong claws enable it to climb the steep walls of the astral prison, to pursue any who dare intrude. The creature then starts pursuing Lion-O by using its sharp claws to climb the wall. Lion-O zaps it with a beam from his Sword of Omens, and the creature falls back into the water, never to be seen again. But it was seen again in plastic toy form. The Astral Moat Monster was one of the first Thundercats figures produced by LJN Toys in 1985. The Astral Moat Monster had posable arms, legs, and wings. Altogether, it had 6 points of articulation, 2 in the shoulders, 2 in the hips, and 2 at the back. These points allowed the figure to be posed in a variety of action poses. The Astral Moat Monster came with 2 detachable wings. These wings were made of red plastic and would be attached to the holes on the figure's back. These wings are an easily lost piece, and a complete Astral Moat Monster can fetch up to $1,000 on eBay. So this has been the first episode of Monster Preservation and Research Society. I invite you all to join the society and come back month after month to take a look at even more monsters. Since this was the first episode, I wanted to take it a little easy, and this was just a quick look at 2 awesome monsters. One with a decades-rich backstory, the other with a one-shot appearance in a great cartoon. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. And if you got something to say, please leave a comment. I love reading them and I love getting back to everybody. And if you're new around here and you enjoyed this episode or any of the ones that YouTube is recommending below me right now, please hit subscribe. And if you hit that little bell, you'll be notified whenever there's a new episode. So until next time, keep being rad and stay dorky.